Hey guys, Cassie here with Mom It Yourself. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to me, thanks so much for stopping by to watch my video. You can go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below, and you can hit the little notification bell to be notified every time I upload a new video. Today I wanted to show you guys how I make Vivian's baby food. So I have been making her baby food pretty much since she started eating solids. And we did try the jarred food for maybe about 2 weeks before I decided it was time to try something a little bit different. So I just wanted to show you guys how I do it. So if you like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up, and let's go ahead and get started. So like I said before, I had been making Vivian's baby food probably since she was, let's see, I think she started on regular like solids right around like 4 months. So I think we started introducing different types of food right around the same time along with cereal. So we did try the jarred baby food for a little while. We kind of found it to be a little bit more expensive, and it's almost like the color of the baby food. You know, you get peas and they're like this brownish green, and I just wasn't a huge fan of it. To be honest, to each their own. If you decide to give your baby jarred baby food, you are mom. You can do whatever you want. But I just wanted to show you guys how I make her baby food. So throughout this whole video, I'm going to show you basically a step-by-step process on how I do it. What I make is not all that I make. There is just a few examples here of what I do. I've tried a lot of different food combinations, and I did do a puree, but now that Vivian is doing more like finger foods, I make everything in little cubes, which takes a little bit longer, just because you have to focus a lot on what size the food is. So let's go ahead and check it out. Alright, so let's check out what kind of food we're going to do today. So here I have a pear, carrots, and then I also have sweet potatoes. So again, like I had said earlier, these are just a few examples. I also need a peeler, and then I just use, this is my favorite knife in my kitchen. So this is what I like to use to chop up her food. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the pear. The pears are easy. Usually about one pear makes typically about 2 little containers of baby food. So you just have to make sure to cut off both ends, and then I just cut it down into easier pieces, and then I always make sure that I peel off the skin on the outside as well. So now I'm going to start chopping up the pear. So I always try to make sure that they're in strips before I start cutting into the little cubes. So I do this just to make it so that I can cut more than one strip at a time. And then again, obviously with pears, you want to make sure you cut out the core, because that part's a little hard to eat for baby. So I am going to go ahead and do that and cut it into strips, and then you'll see what size cubes I do. And then I also place this into a little container on the side as well.
So I did finish up cutting this half of the pear, and then I cut out the rest of me cutting up because that's a lot of watching me chop. So once I get this into the dish, I put that into the fridge while I finished up with the other chopping. That way I can kind of put them all into dishes or into their little baby food containers all at the same time. So it'll skip here in just a second, and voila, I'm done cutting up the pear. I'm going to move on to my carrots next. So I chop off the ends, and then I will start to peel off the outside skin, just because that part's kind of dirty and it's just kind of gross, and I just like to peel off those skins. So I just show one carrot here, but I did have 3 carrots that I did. So I will go ahead and take care of that. 3 carrots done. So now I'm going to start chopping these up into little rounds basically, and then once I get to a part of the carrot that gets a little bit too thick, where I know that the pieces are going to be a little bit too much, I will cut the carrot in half and chop from there. So I think I only show you 1 carrot here, but I do show you about the size of the pieces that I'm chopping up as well, so you can see how big they are. They're really only about the size of like finger foods, just really little, something she can put in her mouth, but it's not so big that when she starts chewing she won't be able to swallow it. So as you can see, they're just little bite-sized pieces for baby. It just makes little finger food for her. Finished chopping up all 3 of the carrots. As you can see, my fingers always turn orange every single time I cut up carrots. So I just placed these in a dish while I was chopping up the rest of the food. Then that way I can put it all on the stove right around the same time, and then I can kind of keep track of my cooking times. So we're just going to put this here in a little glass dish, and then I believe we will, oh, it looks like I found a couple of pieces that were a little bit too big, so I will chop those in half. I always check before I finish up, so there you have it. There's the carrots. So next I'm going to move on to the sweet potato. Of course, like any other potato, you want to peel off the skins. I hate using a peeler. I have always had such a hard time peeling veggies. It takes me forever. I know my mom used to ask me to help peel her potatoes when we were kids for dinner and stuff, and I'm just not good at it. It's a really big challenge for me for whatever reason, but you do want to make sure that you get all that skin off, and then I do end up washing these. You just don't see that part because this sink's behind me. But yeah, you just want to make sure you get all that skin off, wash them off, that way any of the dirt that was from the outside is not on the sweet potato anymore. I did go ahead and finish peeling the other sweet potato, and I did wash them off. So I'm cutting off the ends just to make for a more steady base, and then I do cut it in half. So I try to make it as easy as possible to cut these up. Sweet potatoes are obviously a harder vegetable, so they are a little bit more of a challenge. I just like to try to cut it down into strips, so then that way when I start cutting cubes, they're a little bit more symmetrical and a little bit more even. So it looks like at times that I am kind of wasting part of the sweet potato, but it just makes it easier for baby as well, and then I don't get any weird pieces that overcook or something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and cut up the sweet potato, and I do cut out quite a bit because it takes a little while, and then I will place this all in my dish. And here's the final result of me cutting up those sweet potatoes. So as you can see, they're just nice little bite-sized pieces, and 2 sweet potatoes makes quite a bit.
Alright, so as you can see, I put a pot of boiling water on the stove here. So I am going to just add my carrots. So here is my thing of carrots. Alright, and then I want to cook these until they are just tender. It doesn't take very long when they're cut up like this, so I would kind of keep an eye on them. I would probably say, I want to say no more than 10 minutes, but if I'm wrong, I'll go ahead and add that on the side of the screen here so you can see how long it actually takes. So it looks like we started it at 5:03, and we will see how long these take, and then I will let you know exactly how long. Alright, so the water here for my sweet potatoes is just about to boil. Again, same thing, I just put a pot of water on the stove and gave it a little bit of time. You can see it's starting to boil up here. So I'm going to take our bowl of sweet potato here. These last few. And then again, I am going to just stir this real quick. And I forgot to mention before that you definitely want to make sure that you turn the stove down, because I have had these boil over with all that wonderful foam. So make sure that you turn the stove down just a little bit. Alright, so then the sweet potatoes here, we started at 5:06, so we will keep track of how long these take to cook. But again, because they are such small cubes, they really won't take that long, and you want them to be fork tender. Because when you warm these up afterwards in the microwave for the baby after they've come out of the fridge, they will cook a little bit more. So I like them just fork tender. So we'll go ahead and let that cook, and then we'll check back on them here in a minute. Alright, so I did just get done checking my carrots here, and they are done. So it looks like it took, let's see, we started at 5:03. So they took about 7 minutes to cook, which is not bad at all. So I did turn off the stove. I am just going to take these here. And I have my colander here in my sink, so I'm going to strain these out. Now, if you were pureeing, you'd want to keep the water that it cooks in, because that's where a lot of the nutrients cook off to. But since we're using these as bite size, I'm going to go ahead and just strain them out completely. And then we'll see what we're going to do next. Alright, so I did take the sweet potatoes off the stove. I wasn't able to record me draining them because it was a giant pot and I was afraid I was going to drop it. So I did take these off the stove at 5:14. So that means that these took about 8 minutes to cook. So, you know, those 2 giant sweet potatoes only took 8 minutes to cook when you cut them up into these little cubes. So I'm going to go ahead and dish these up.
So now I'm going to start putting the food into containers. So these are the containers that I use. They're just small little plastic containers with lids. I got these on Amazon, and I'll make sure that I link these down below so you can see how much they were. I like them because they're both microwavable safe and they're also freezer safe. So when you're trying to pick out containers for your baby food, you want to make sure that it's something that's going to be both microwave and freezer safe. Then that way you know that it's going to be taking care of that food. So I just go ahead and I fill them up. I like to fill them right up to the top because she'll eat usually at least 1 container every time she has dinner, or you know, whenever we feed her. So I do fill these all the way up, and because my carrots here are still warm, I will leave the lid off of these as well, so then they have time to cool, because I don't want to shut the lid while they're still hot. Next, I'm going to put my sweet potatoes in their containers, just the same thing as I did with the carrots, just filling them right up to the top and leave the lid open until they finish cooling. So while I'm filling these up, I just wanted to give you a couple more examples of the other foods that I've tried with Vivian. She really does like squash. It's the same thing as cutting up into the other vegetables, and you always want to peel the skin off those as well. And they do have a little bit of like the core, kind of like a pumpkin, so you cut that part out, cut them up into cubes, cook them the same. They take about the same time as a sweet potato, so about the 8 minutes or whatever it was here. And on top of that, I've also done peas. I've done broccoli. Broccoli's a little bit different. It's harder to cut up into bite-sized pieces. I did do that as a puree. If you're going for more of a puree with your baby food, I always cut my veggies up to bigger chunks and then I boil them and then I use a food processor to blend them up. I would have liked to do a video on that earlier, but I did not start my channel before that point, so we're just doing the bite-sized food. But those are just a couple of other examples. I do use a lot of fruit. I've done strawberries, I've done blueberries, raspberries, and she likes them all. Those obviously you don't have to cook. If you do apples, I do recommend cooking those just because they're easier to bite down on. Then it becomes more of like a pear texture, which is a lot softer. So I have done those as well. As far as doing combinations, you can always look online. I found a lot of different ideas there as well. And then you can puree those together or cut them up in chunks together. I will also, with her veggies here, I will give her some sort of protein along with it. So I have done chicken and she likes beef, and so I will go ahead and do those as well. So here you can see that I made 6 different containers out of 2 sweet potatoes, so that's quite a bit. That's almost a whole week worth. And then I have my lids here sitting on the side. So like I said earlier, I will go ahead and put these off to the side while they cool off, and then we will move on to the next step, which is putting on the labels. So I don't actually have the video on here, but what I do is I take regular old address labels and I will write on them what kind of food and the date, and then I will put them into the freezer.
So I did want to show you guys what I do with it after I'm done cooking. So this is my freezer down here. So once they've cooled, I will go ahead and actually put them down here. I do have more to make. I just wanted to show you guys where I put it. So this is where I keep them, right down here on this top little drawer. So I'll put half of what I make in the freezer and then half of what I make up here in the fridge. So I have this cute little basket here that I got from the Dollar Tree. I just use it to keep all of Vivian's food in, just so that it's easily accessible. Pulls right out, and then, you know, these are the mangoes. I have to have her finish eating those. And then I can just kind of pick and choose what I want. So that is where we keep all of her food. Say hi, Vivian. Are you enjoying your pears? Yummy, yummy. I'm just gonna stare. Yummy. Alright guys, thanks so much for sitting and watching me make Vivian's baby food. I really appreciate it. Again, if you're new to me, thanks again so much for sitting and watching my video. You can go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. That would be fantastic. And you can hit that notification bell to be notified every time I upload a new video. And again, if you like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. And now make sure you let me know what kind of baby food your baby likes to eat in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear it. All right, you guys have a wonderful day. Bye.